welcome again to Homestead Heart. Thank you so much for stopping by. And I am so excited to share with you this new series that I have started called "'Tis the Season." Okay? And what is it the season for? This is the season for, you guessed it, canning. So let's get started, and actually I'm going to go over with you the different types of canners. Okay, we have water bath canners, pressure canners, and they are used for canning different types of foods. All right, now, and actually what I'm going to do also at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you my dream pressure canner. One day I'm going to have this canner one of these days. And for those seasoned pressure canners and seasoned canners, period, you know what canner I'm talking about probably. And if you do, go ahead and post it in the comments before I get to the end of this video. And I will share what that canner is with you, because that baby has a heavy tag on it, okay? One of these days. But anyway, let's get started. So we're going to start with this canner right here. This is a water bath canner. And a little background, this canner was given to me by my grandmother every bit of 15 years ago. And man, if only I had known, really what she was giving me then, I would have been, I probably would have started this journey of canning a long time ago. Even though I sat with them and shelled peas and, peeled fruit, and even snuck some every now and then, and I always thought they didn't see me. Oh, but they saw me. My granny and my Aunt Mary, my great Aunt Mary, who's about to be 91 this month. Happy birthday anniversary. She's about to be 91. I watched those two can, but I really didn't understand what they were doing. And I just came into understanding maybe about 10 years ago. So I'm really grateful for this canner that my grandmother gave me, and I will probably keep this canner. I don't know, it ain't going nowhere. This canner means a lot to me, and I have definitely been using it now that I understand better, right? Above all things, get what? Understanding. And so I understand the value of canning now. Now look at this. This canner, this is used for your high acid foods, your fruits, your apples and your pears and peaches and things like that. It's used for that, okay? And it's also used for tomatoes. That's considered a fruit. So that is what you would use for water bath canning. Now we'll talk more about high acid foods in another video, but I just want to show you the canner, because even though you may be canning high acid foods, you still sometimes have to add lemon juice to increase the acidity, depending on which fruit it is that you are going to be canning. So now let's look at this. This is an enamel canner, okay? Has a lid. Nothing spectacular about it, right? Just a big giant pot with a lid, but it also has this basket on the inside. And this basket here, that basket is used to hold the jars, to keep the jars off the bottom of the pot so that the water flows underneath it evenly to properly process or can your jars. And this holds 7 quart-sized jars. It holds, big jars, and it even holds plenty of pint-sized jars as well. Okay, and this canner right here, once it's full with hot water, this little basket comes in handy, because it helps you to be able to lower and raise the jars in and out of the water once you begin that process of putting them in the canner and taking them out. So that's your water bath canner, okay? Thanks, Grandma. Now, that water bath canner, it comes in other styles too. There's a stainless steel with a glass lid. It's probably 35, 40 bucks. They have that as well on Amazon. Now, if you are interested in water bath canning, you have different types. Choose the one that you like, okay? But this one for me, that's heart right there. Okay, moving on to the pressure canners. Okay. Take 2. So now back to pressure canners. These pressure canners right here, they come in so many different sizes. They have real small ones, and then they have those that are so big they would never fit on your stove. You probably got to cook, pressure can with those outside. They could be so big, right? But let's look at the two that I have here today. And there's one that I don't have that's going to be a little different, and I'll tell you about it. But let's get started with this one. This is a 16 quart pressure canner. Now, in your pressure canners, it's different. You know, in pressure canners, you would use those typically. You would use these for canning low acid foods, which are going to basically be meats and vegetables, okay? Meats and vegetables. Some people use their pressure canners as water bath canners, and you can if you like, if you know how to do that. I don't, you know, my canners lock, and, you know, when they lock, it's just, for me, I would just rather have a lid to lift up off of it on my water bath canner than to, you know, having to unlock this just to keep the heat in so the water will boil. But some people probably has mastered that. I don't do it. Now with this one right here, as you notice, it's a little different from this one, okay? These are both pressure canners. The difference is one is 16 quarts, okay? The other 23 quarts. Much bigger, right? Okay. Now, with your pressure canner, like I said, you're going to can meats. Just about any kind of meat you could think of. You're going to can fish. You can can salmon. You know, you can can white fish. You can can different types of fish in your canner. And you can vegetables, okay? So that's what your pressure canner is going to be used for. Now, with this pressure canner, you could see it's a little different. There's no gauge on this canner like it is on this one, and there's a reason, okay? So now with this canner here, it's just a standard canner. This one right here has weight but no gauge. You have to pay close attention when using this type of canner to determine when your canner has come up to the pressure for the area and the altitude that you are in, okay? And this is weighted. This is weighted right here. This right here with all three pieces is 15 pounds, okay? These come off. And if you take both of these little rings off here, you would be left with just this, and that would be 5 pounds. That would be 5 pounds of weight. With the ring on, that one would be 10 pounds. And if I add this one, it would be 15 pounds. When I lived in Denver, all of my canning was done, my pressure canning was done at 15 pounds of pressure, being 5,000 feet above sea level. Here in Georgia, I'm not that high. I'm not way up there anymore. So I don't need 15 pounds of pressure. So if I use this, I will take off one of these weights, one of the rings, and I would can it at 10 pounds of pressure. And when this thing starts, how do I know when it gets up to pressure? How do I know? Because I'll have this on high heat, and this joke is going to be going crazy, right? It'll be doing all of that wiggling and jiggling. And then I will be able to adjust my heat to where it's just a slight jiggle, and that will let me know that I've reached my desired pressure, and then I will monitor it from there. Okay, and there's a lot more to it than that, but we're going to go over that later. The next is this canner. All right, now with this canner right here, this canner has a dial pressure gauge, okay, and it also has a pressure regulator. It's not a weight, it's a regulator. Okay, this is a weight, this is a regulator, okay? And it's heavy too. It's a little heavy too, but it's a regulator. And the way this works is, once my jars are inside and my lid is sealed, then this has to go through a process called venting before I put the regulator on, okay? It goes through a process. Now, and so does this one. Before I put the weight on, this one goes through a process too. They both are going to do the same thing, which is something called venting. And we'll talk about venting later, okay? Well, let's do it real quick. Venting is when you are allowing the pressure in the canner to build, and it's pushing all of the air out of the canner, okay? And as it pushes the air out, steam is coming out of the canner. And that steam has to be coming out of this canner steady for 10 whole minutes. And then after it has steamed or vented for 10 minutes, On this canner, that's when you put your weight on. On this one, that's when you put your regulator on, okay? And then we would be looking for this gauge to reach the desired pressure. And like I said, for me, that would be 10 pounds. You have 10 pounds here, 15 pounds here. For me, it would be 10 pounds. And once it reaches pressure, at that point is when I would start timing the product that is inside of the jars. So now that is the pressure canner. Let me show you inside of the canner. First of all, it's a pretty big canner. You can see this canner has a rubber gasket on it. A rubber gasket, it helps with the seal. And inside, this one also has a little plate, if you will. It's a canning rack, okay? And that canning rack keeps the jars up off the bottom of this canner, similar to the water bath canner, so that the water can flow underneath it evenly and process the jars, okay? And so that's what that looks like on the inside, and that's the lid, and this seals. Let me back up. Yeah, let me get back. That way you could see. Now that seals on that lid, and I mean it's a tight seal too, okay? So anyway, these are the types of canners. Remember the water bath canner, that is for canning your fruits, tomatoes and whatnot. And the pressure canner, that is a low acid product that goes in these canners, which is your meats, your vegetables, your seafood, or gosh, I think it's one other thing. I can't think of it right now. But it all goes in here. It all goes in your pressure canner, okay? All right, so I will do part 2 of this because this is a long video. I didn't want it to be this long. I'll do a part 2 on this. And by the way, that dream canner that I want so bad, that's an all-American pressure canner. Oh my goodness, I would love to have it one day. That is, hey, that's the goal. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching Homestead Heart. I hope you enjoyed this video. Peace and love. See you next time.